and welcome to a new episode of the Yarnflakes Podcast. My name is Audrey and this is a knitty yarny podcast from the southwest of France. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this new episode. I hope you're all doing very well, that you are staying safe, that you are well, you and your loved ones. I have a little episode for you this week. I have a new pattern release to show you. I have three works in progress, two of which are new. Or actually three, but one of them I mentioned but didn't show. And I also have some BARGELLO stitching again to share with you. So yes, my hair is green. Am I really happy? Yes. I'm so impressed with myself that I managed to get the exact shade of dark emerald that I wanted. Yes, I look like I just cursed someone to go into an eternal sleep after they poked their finger on the spindle, but I like it. It's very Halloweeny. It's totally going to fade into an ugly bluish thing though, but for now I'm happy. Moving on. I'm going to start right away. You can find timestamps to all the different sections of the podcast in the description down below. So if you want to skip anything, feel free to look at that and jump ahead. I also put links to everything that I talk about, as well as my social media, my patterns for sale on Ravelry and Payhip, and my Patreon page. So yay. Let's start with a new design that I just published on Ravelry and Payhip, and it's the sweater that I'm wearing, and it's the Sauron sweater. Let me climb to show it to you, and yay! So it is a top-down yoke, colorwork yoke sweater. It is perhaps my most beginner-friendly colorwork design. You start with the neckline here, the 2x2 ribbing. You work some increases to get to the right shoulder circumference. Then you work the colorwork, which is this motif, which is fairly simple. As you can see, the shapes are pretty clear. So if you make a mistake and place a stitch the wrong way, you're gonna see it instantly. So it goes pretty fast. It's very easy. You have some floats to catch, like here, but it's fairly straightforward. And as always in my patterns that contain colorwork, I give indications on how you can handle the colors and when you can catch the floats if you want to. So once you have finished your colorwork, there is some short rows at the back here, so that the neck is not too low here compared to the front. And yeah, then you separate body and sleeve. The body is straight, and there is an option to work some bust darts with short rows. So basically, this is good for you if you notice that in your sweaters, especially the yoke and the raglans, the front rides up because of your bust. Basically, you need more fabric here. If not, the front of your sweater is gonna be too short, so you would need to make a longer sweater, but then the back is long as well. So yeah, a way to fix that is to work short rows here on the bust. So I decided to incorporate them based on cup measurements. I've seen that this is what seems to be done often, and also because it's a bit more intuitive. It's not perfect. The cup measurement is not something that's very universally understood, but I think it's a bit easier than saying measure your upper bust, your full bust, and your shoulder, and the difference, and blah blah blah. And yeah, so I decided to try and put it based on cup measurements. And so when you are here in the pattern, it tells you if you need bust darts, work bust darts here. So you can find the instructions on a separate page. And basically it tells you from cup C to I believe. Yeah, CDEFGH. Yes. You work bustard. So basically, you just go flat here, back and forth on the front, wider depending on your cup, so that you have a bit more fabric here around your bust, so that you don't have that problem of the sweater being too short on the front. And I'm really happy because the testers that have done them, they're really happy with them and they work. So I am extremely happy with those. We'll keep incorporating them on designs when it's possible. Basically, when it's just a stockinette front, there's no reason not to. So I will try and put them when it's easy to adjust them here. If you don't need bustards like I didn't do them on mine because I don't need that difference. The body is straight. Then at the end, you have some stripes of the contrast color just before the hem. And then you have the 2x2 weaving to finish. Then you pick up for the sleeves. You knit them a little bit fitted, not too tight, and they're very long sleeves, which is quite an exploit for me to knit sleeves that long. But yeah, that's it. So it's a very simple construction. Like I said, it's probably my most basic, accessible colorwork garment pattern. And yeah, I really hope you like it. It's knitted in sport weight yarn, which is also a good thing. I know people really like my Apophinia design, which is knitted in fingering weight at a very tight gauge because it has like lots of ease. So it's a lot of knitting. But this is 24 stitches per 10 centimeter, so sport weight. You can use a fingering weight if it's a plump one, or if you don't mind the loose gauge. You can use a DK weight if it's a light drapey one, but sport weight is best. And yeah, it doesn't have that much ease, about 10 centimeter. And yeah, my main color is Ulysses from De Rerum Natura, which is woolen spun French merino, non-superwash. I really love using woolen spun yarns for garments because woolen spun, if you don't know, they're not combed. The fibers are not combed into one direction. So basically, they have a lot more air trapped in them. That's why when you look at a woolen spun yarn, it may look less neat because it's all fluffy and airy. And that has different advantages. One of them is that they end up being lighter and warmer because they fluff up, they bloom so much. And it means that you can have a bigger garment for less yarn because it takes up more space. It can bloom to a variety of different gauges. For example, Ulysses, it has 185 meter to 50 gram. So it's a lot of meterage for a sport weight yarn that can even go to a DK type gauge of 21, 22 stitches. But it makes garments more affordable. So yeah, if you're looking at getting yarn for a garment, I recommend that you check if you cannot find a woolen spun yarn, because woolen spun often ends up being more affordable because you need less skeins, because you have more meterage for a yarn that's going to end up thicker. And De Rerum Natura's Ulysses, Gilliatt and Cyrano are really good for that. And this is the Fusain colorway, which I think is their darkest color. I don't know if they have a more black than this. I don't remember. But yeah. And my contrast color. My contrast color is a handspun yarn from Blush and Bloom Fiber Co. So Blush and Bloom Fiber Co. She is Shaylee Morales on Instagram. She has a gorgeous Instagram account of her handspun. And yeah, this is a DK weight merino in shades of rust, coral orange, dirty pink, things like this. And yeah, I really like using these types of yarns. You know, the really precious handspuns, the spin cycle yarns. It's really trendy at the moment. Lots of designers are using these types of yarn in colorwork designs, because it really lets them shine. And so it is quite a pricey type of yarn, but you have loads of alternatives. If you want the same variegated effect, of course you can just do it with a normal contrast color, a solid contrast. It can be quite cool. You can check my testers versions on Ravelry to see, or on Instagram to see the different types of combos that you can make. But if you want the same variegated handspun style effect, but you cannot afford a handspun yarn, you don't spin yourself, you can't afford spin cycle, which is quite pricey, and also not really easy to find here in Europe, you have options. You have some commercial brands that do like fingering weight sock yarn that have this sort of effect. I'm thinking, for example, of the German brand like the Zauberball things. But a solution that I really like is you can take 2 or 3 skeins of light fingering or lace weight yarn, like Holskarn Super Soft, Filcolana Saga, Knit Picks Palette, this sort of things. And you pick different colors and you hold them together, and you will get a similar marled effect. I advise against using gradients, because unless it's a very short gradient or a striped yarn, because you need very little, so you wouldn't knit them enough to see the color change. So I personally really like the solution of you take 2 cakes of fingering weight yarn and you hold them together, and they're different colors, and you can have fun making your own combination, and you will get a very similar effect. And that's a solution for you. I wrote that on the pattern page, just so that you know that you have options. And what else can I say about this? I think I said everything. I really, really like this sweater. So yeah, it's I drew this motif a very long time ago, and so I'm really happy that I finally managed to make it into the design and release it. So at first it was supposed to be crystal, then it obviously became eyes, like the eye of Sauron. Some people also see vulvas, so yay. Make it whatever you want. In those colors, it's very Halloweeny, but you can check my testers versions again to see how different it looks depending on the color. Some people choose like more elegant combos, like blue and white, and also if you make it a low contrast. Someone picked a color which, like, the contrast color is fairly similar to this one. It's a variegated orangey rust pink shade, but their main color is a beige, like a cream sort of natural color, and so the contrast is not as sharp, but you can still see the motif fairly well, but it just makes it so much softer and nicer. It was a big hesitation of mine. I couldn't decide if I wanted the dark main color or the white, and I ended up making it darker because I own a lot of light colored sweaters and I just wanted something different, and I just thought it's Halloweeny, it's fun. My hair is green anyway, so it's like I might as well go for it. But yeah, you can make it look how much subtle as you want it. And I really hope you like it as much as I do. If you do, there is 15% off on Ravelry with the code Sauron. I always write in the description the code to get the discount, and it's on the pattern page as well, so that you can make sure that you can find it easily. And on PayHip, it's, as usual, less expensive. It's about 20% less on PayHip. If you need a pattern at a more affordable price, you can always go on my PayHip store. And so let me show you again how it is, and it's really fun. And I think I'm gonna get lots of wear out of it because it's quite comfy, it's a nice shape, and yeah, I like it. I think I've said everything, so I'm going to move on to my works in progress. And the first one is one that I mentioned in the previous episode. I mentioned I was going to start, that I am knitting a sample for some slippers that I'm designing for making stories in this Corriedale sock yarn from Wool and Twine, which is Danish, and I still haven't checked. I think it's just Danish. Dear God. I started making this sample, and I'm not going to show you everything, but I just wanted to say a few things because I had quite some not trouble, but I had to fiddle with it quite a bit because the design that I intended was slippers, so more like socks with zero ease or even a bit of positive ease. So to do that, I have two options. Either I use a thick yarn, like a Sport or DK weight, or I make a bigger sock with the fingering weight. And since I have this yarn, which is a fingering weight, and it's quite a fine one, and it has a crisp definition, it's quite small and defined. If I can just show you the ribbing, maybe you can see what I mean. It's really tiny little definition, which is really nice and textured. And I didn't know how far I could push it gauge-wise. So I tried first to knit it at a looser gauge at like 30 stitches, which is pretty loose for a sock in a fingering weight yarn. And I tried to do that to get the right measurements that I wanted, but it was way too loose. Like the fabric was too stretched out, like the socks would have worn out in like 2 seconds. Maybe they wouldn't even have gone through the photo shoot, so that's like not an option. So I ended up having to make bigger socks, and so basically I regraded the socks so that they are between 64 and 80 stitches. So basically someone who usually knits socks with 56 stitches, they're gonna use 64. And this size, which is like the medium size, I have 76 stitches, which is much bigger than a regular sock. I have a gauge that's 32, 33, which is much more convenient. And it's like such a richly textured thing with the tension. Like this has been reknitted about 4 and 5 times. So this is how it looks like, much more sock worthy. This is my heel. We're making a German short row heel, and it's done. And this is quite interesting because I find it funny. You have a bigger socks with a finer yarn, and so you still have that tight gauge that's necessary, but you have many stitches. And so what I had to do, and I think looks really cool, is that I have a texture panel on the front of the sock, and the original panel, it's 2 panels side by side, and one was only like 3 units of a motif. And so if I put that on the 76 stitches sock, it would be too small on the front and it wouldn't look good. So I managed to size up the motif. It's not always possible to size up cables or lace. Cables is a little bit easier, but sometimes you just can't make it look right. But this one I was able to. I was able to make it bigger. And so now, I'm going to flash it quickly. So now, the texture panel occupies most of the front of the sock. And it's going to be, I think I'm going to have to size it down for the smaller size. And this way it's going to stay like this for the bigger size. And it's going to look proportionate on the front of the sock, which is really cool. And I just really like it because that way it looks a bit more rich, a bit more busy, because it occupies most of the front of the sock. And it's just going to show it again quickly. Voila. And yeah, I just think it looks really good that way, because I had to fiddle and end up with a bigger stitch count than I would usually for a fingering weight sock. So yeah, I'm happy with how this is turned out. I'm knitting the first sock. I'm like almost done with it, I think. Yes, it's a bit funny because I need to. I think the sample that they want me to knit is like one size bigger than my feet, so I kind of have to to get my mind around this. But yeah, it's going. And in case you don't know, Making Stories, they're organized to test knits. So if you're ever interested into test knitting patterns for Making Stories, you can sign up on their newsletter to be a test knitter, and they handle it all. So you have to knit with the yarn that was used for the design, but you have a discount often. And yeah, basically you have a newsletter, and when they have a publication ready for testnet, you receive a mail and you have access to a secret design website where you can see all the designs basically that are available for testnet. So yeah, if that's something that you're interested in, you can go and do that for them. That is lovely. And yes, so my next work in progress is going to be my next design. It was supposed to be for this autumn, but I had to push it back because I'm an awful person. And yes. And yeah, so this is a collaboration with a French dyer, Heidi ID. And they released a while back this yarn, which is 80% non-superwash merino, 20% silk, and it's like a lace of light fingering weight yarn. It has 600 meters to 100 grams, and I really like blending silk with non-superwash wool, because superwash wool makes the yarn silky and smooth, and silk is silky and smooth, and so it's like very silky, very smooth, very slippery. But if you combine silk with non-superwash wool, it sort of makes an interesting texture, because it like sort of contradicts itself, and it's just sort of have a peculiar crisp to it. This is a 2-ply that's very twisted. It's very interesting. This is their Toscan color, and this is the matching mohair, because this is a design that's going to be doubled with mohair. And their mohair is very fluffy. It has lots, it's like there's everywhere. It has lots of air. It's very plump. And I'm quite impressed at how like the colors are exactly the same. It's often not the case because like fibers take the color differently. But Heidi ID, they're very good at managing colors, solid colors. And so as you can see, it's like plain identical. So the idea of this design. So it came, I just remembered how it came to me because I explained it on the French podcast. So it's going to be a cardigan with a fun construction. And why did I want that fun construction? So when I was designing my Telerik sweater, which is a full-on colorwork sweater, this sweater uses the same colorwork motif as my Aliénor socks. And so when I was designing this sweater, I sort of thought, because I had this vertical panel from the sock, I sort of imagined that you could use that as the borders of a cardigan, you know? You could have the colorwork motif on the back, and then on the front of the cardigan here, the two edges of the cardigan would be this vertical panel of colorwork. And I ended up not doing that. I still want to do something like this, but I need to figure out a few things, because like knitting colorwork flat. So I have to think, maybe it's not going to be stranded colorwork, or maybe I'm going to have a motif where each wrong side row would be just one color. That would make quite a fun optical illusion in the design, so I have to think about this. I'm still processing the idea. But I realized that this idea of having a motif on the center back that then splits in half to become the two fronts of a cardigan, this would work really well for lace and cables. So this is what I'm doing. And this is the lace motif that I will be using. And I'm really happy because it works so well. I was a bit concerned because of how fluffy the mohair is, that the lace wouldn't show, but it does. It does because there's this really architectural lines here of the eyelet garter lines, and then you have these really sharp angles here, so it looks exactly like I wanted. I love working lace in mohair. I love how it looks, but you have to find the right motif so that it's not a shame and it actually looks nice and elegant. So this is the bottom of the back, basically. It's gonna be at the bottom of the back. This is a swatch that I blocked because, and I didn't cut the yarns because I'm just going to pick up the stitches and continue my design from this because I'm lazy and I didn't want to waste yarn. So this is going to be at the back, and I'm going to go up, continue this lace motif up until the back of the neck. Then you can see here in the center you have 2 slipped stitches here. This is going to split in half, and I'm going to knit 1/2 and then 1/2 so that it goes downwards like this until the bottom of the front. And you could knit the 2 simultaneously. I don't like knitting things simultaneously, weirdly, so I'll probably do one then one. Then once you have those bands, you're gonna pick up stitches along all the front and all the back, and then you're gonna knit horizontally this way with the ribbing at the 2 ends, so that the ribbing at the bottom of the cardigan will be on the hem, will be horizontal. Haven't decided which ribbon I want yet, I'll see. So we're gonna knit this way until the side of the body here. Then I'm probably gonna use a 3 needle bind off here to close this, and then you're only gonna have the stitches for the sleeve left, and you're gonna join them in the round and continue knitting the sleeves downwards. And then you're gonna do the same on the other side, picking up the stitches all the way, knitting this way, closing here, and then continue with the sleeve. That's the idea. Then I'm not sure if I want to work a night-cord along the front. I'm afraid it's gonna look a bit heavy next to the lace. So there's still gonna be that slip stitch here. So I'm tempted to just leave it like this. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So this is the idea for this construction. It's quite fun. I'll probably make some schematic, like step by step, to show you the different steps in the pattern. It's not extremely complicated. It's just that I noticed that already with like a typical drop shoulder cardigan construction, people are sometimes confused because they don't want to just follow the pattern blindly, and if they don't understand how it works, it can like block you a little bit. So I think for this I will make like a step by step. I will make little schematics to explain how it's constructed, and hopefully that will help. But it's not going to be complicated, and it's going to be fun, and I really like this lace motif. So yeah, this is a design that is most likely going to be released in the beginning of 2021, if we're still alive. I'm sorry, that's my humor. I started watching Dark on Netflix, which is I'm late. It's the German TV show, and it took me forever to start watching it because everyone was saying it was mind-blowing and revolutionary and so complicated and blah blah blah. And whenever people say that a film or a series or something is mind-bending and everything, it's kind of like the Christopher Nolan movies. When I end up watching them, I'm like, I'm a bit disappointed because I'm like, I got the plot twist 2 minutes from the start of the thing. So yeah, but actually Dark, it's quite good. I really like it. I really like the mood of it, and the music. The actors are cool. I like how it's done. How it's not too over the top. I like it. But anyway, what I mean is that it's quite funny to watch fiction about doomsday and apocalypse and whatever you want happening in 2020. I'm like, yeah, that's fun. That's funny. So this cardigan will be released in February, when we will have pushed through the new year, and we will all be hopeful and great, and we're gonna make it. So yeah, this is probably for February, and I'm really eager to start knitting on it, because like I said, I had to push back the design and I feel terrible, but I really want to make something really so pretty, and so like I feel so bad that I had to push back the design for the dyer, that I want to make something even 10 times bigger than what I had in mind. And so I really hope everyone's gonna like it. I do. The dyer says she likes it too, so we're on. And I have one last work in progress, which is the start of a blanket. Now, if you've been around for a long time, you might remember that I did knit a blanket, I think a couple of years ago, and I said, never again, because that blanket, it was a garter chevron blanket. It was a pattern from Knitting Expect, which is a really beautiful blanket, but it had several flaws. Flaw number one was that it was not for me. It was a gift, a wedding gift, and I'm a very selfish person, so that's not helping me to stay motivated. The second flaw was that it was big. It was all knitted in one go, and so it was like this massive thing. And the third flaw was that it was all garter, even though they had the stripes of different colors, which was really cool, and the little chevron shaping. It was still just garter, and it was too much for me. And yeah, I said, like, blankets, no. However, it slowly, the idea has started creeping in my mind that there are lots of really beautiful blanket designs that are actually knit in pieces. And I stumbled upon Jenise Hope's design, which she has a ton of designs. She's been designing forever, I guess. She has a lot of designs on Ravelry, but she has especially, the ones I looked at the most, really gorgeous big colorwork blankets, which are a lot of them are knitted in pieces. Like, she plays a lot with the fact that you're knitting small pieces and then you're assembling them, sort of like a quilt mood. And I really like this, and they're so beautiful. And so I really like color work. It really motivates me. I don't mind sewing or grafting. It's not I don't mind it. So I think maybe that's it. And I'm gonna try to see if making blankets this way, piece by piece, is something that would work for me. Because she has stunning designs. Especially one that I really want to make in the future is the Indian Nights, which is stunning. But the first one that caught my eye and that I started is the one that's called Persian Dreams. And so she has a fingering weight version, but I chose to make the worsted weight version because I thought, okay, I need to ease myself into it. I need to be friends with blanket knitting again. So I'm not going to start with a fingering weight 30 colors thing. I'm going to start with a worsted weight blanket in 2 colors. That way it's going to be easier. So I'm knitting the Persian Dreams worsted weight. And so, how is it made? I started it last night, and I bought the pattern and I read the pattern and I was like, I really find it so interesting when you when you discover a pattern from a new designer, and you sort of have to confront your mindset to the designers, because they might use different terms, they might not work, like their brain might not work the same way as yours, and you're like, you need to figure out why the designer is doing things a certain way. And I really, really appreciate that. Now, I haven't read the written instructions. There are full written instructions, if I understood right, but I'm working from charts. So when you read the charts, you're like, oh, the file was like 10 meg. Designers, can you like shrink the sizes of your patterns? Because the pattern files, because it took me like 12 minutes to download the pattern. I know, okay, I'm fighting with my internet provider because they're absolute idiots. And basically I have terrible internet, and yeah, hoping that will change one day. Every day my hopes are going down. But in any case, it took me 12 minutes to download the pattern. I just wish, could you shrink the pattern files when you put them on Ravelry, because it's a nightmare for everyone. And so on the charted pattern, you have like one paragraph that explains the construction, and it's like, I had to read the paragraph quite a few times. I was like, because everything is written there, but it's like not in the order because there's exceptions and things, and so I had to like to sort of rewire my brain and try to figure out what was happening. But in a sense, it's very simple. And so basically you knit hexagon shapes, which is 6 sides, hexagon, Greek. And so that's how it works. You have different charts, different motif. This is the first one. And yeah, basically you start with, I do the magic circle cast on, the one that's like the crochet cast on. I don't do it with a crochet hook, but it's similar to how you start the little amigurumis in the crochet. So you start like this, and then you knit round and round and round, and you're increasing on those lines, and it makes a hexagon shape. And so on some hexagon, then when you finish, you leave the stitches on hold. On some hexagon, you have to knit the border, because then it's gonna be built kind of like a quilt. Sorry, I have like more hair everywhere on my face. And then you have a page which shows you, okay, this hexagon goes there, goes there, goes there, goes there. So you kind of have to lay them out and sew them in the right spot. So some hexagon will be on the sides, so they have a border which is gonna be in moss stitch. So you have to knit the border on one side, 2 sides, 3 sides. I don't understand what you're supposed to do with the edge if you're not continuing. I haven't looked at the border thing yet because it was confusing to me at first glance. So I was like, I'll see when I get there. And yeah, and then you have the grafting instructions, which, okay, so I don't know, I think it's a Kitchener stitch, but she doesn't say it's a Kitchener stitch, and I don't know if maybe Kitchener stitch isn't part of the vocabulary that she knows and uses, or if it's not a Kitchener stitch. She has a step-by-step photo tutorial, which would be super useful for a lot of people. Not for me, though. I look at the pictures and it just confuses me more because I'm wondering if it's a Kitchener stitch or if it's not. So I'll see what I do when I get there. But yeah, it's those sort of things that it's really fun to... I really like confronting my mind to new stuff and stuff that works differently than mine. Whether it's knitting wise or whether it's when I'm reading a book, when I'm watching a series or a movie, I really like to have something that doesn't take me for an idiot. And so I need to like reprocess and understand why it's made that way. And another example is the increases. She calls the increases make one A and make one T. I don't know what A and T means, but yeah, basically it's yarn overs that are twisted. And one of them It's quite funny. And I think it's because it might make more sense if you're knitting continental. But one of the increases, the right leaning increases, she has you take your yarn. So this is my left needle, and she has you do this, like this, and then with your right needle, you have to sort of twist it and do this. And basically, this is an increase, and basically it's exactly the same as if you do a backward loops cast on, like this. When you cast on the stitches by twisting them with your thumb like this in the backward loops cast on. And yeah, it's just that technique that she does of twisting, that she instructs of twisting the strand with the needles. Maybe it's easier if you're knitting continental. But anyway, I really like trying as written, even if I don't understand why it's written like this. I really like, because yeah, it just opens your mind to new things and new perspectives, and you learn new things, and it's really fun. So yeah, I really appreciate this project, and this is my first hexagon. The pattern says that you can knit it on 60 centimeter 24-inch cable. So basically you magic loop at the beginning, then you single loop. If you don't know what single loop is when you have too many stitches to do a magic loop but not enough to use the full circumference, you can just pull one loop of the cable. Like you pull a bit of your cable like this, and it shortens the circumference of your cable, and you just have this loop. It's like a traveling loop, I think it's called. So yeah, and then you have the full 60 centimeter that you can go round and round. Oh, also, when you buy interchangeable needles, be careful, because I realized this when we were knitting on my Page of Wands mystery knit along, and also on a cal that I'm currently having test knitted. I knitted using 60 centimeter inch. It's also the problem with the hats if you're using 16 inch or 40 centimeters cables. I use the higher stripes, and there are two needle size. Some are 4 and some are 5 inches, which is like 10 and 12.5 centimeter. But if you get the bigger one, then your cable is not the right size. You end up having like 5 centimeter or like 2 inches more than the size that you want. And that's because of the needle size. I don't understand why you would want the bigger size. I assume it's because if you're knitting flat, or if you don't need the specific circumference, maybe it's more comfortable for some people to have the bigger needle. But if you want a specific cable circumference to knit a hat, to knit a cowl, to knit this sort of things, but you have the bigger needle size, it's not gonna work. So, you're gonna just get a bigger cable than you intended, and you might not be able to knit comfortably all around. So yeah, that's just a thing that you should be mindful of if you're getting interchangeable needle set. My first hexagon. I think I need to make 2 like this, of this peculiar motif. Then there's 8 different motif, and you can buy an extra pack on Ravelry with more motifs. I don't know if they're just different motif or if it means that your blanket is bigger. I don't know. If it means the blanket is bigger, I would like to get it, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm knitting it in 2 colors, black and white, again because I didn't want each hexagon in the pattern has like 4 or 5 different colors, and what I really like also about the designs, what she writes in her Ravelry pattern pages, is that she writes which color she uses. For example, I really want to make the Indian Nights blanket. If this goes well, later I will make the Indian Nights. Maybe I'm gonna pop it here. And it uses a lot of different colors. The sample used Knitpicks palette. But what I really like, and she does it as well on the Persian Dreams, I think, is that on the Ravelry page, you have a little table that says, I used this color, and the actual color is light blue, grey, yellow, pink. She describes which color it is, which is really useful when you're substituting, because I remember when I was trying to get yarn for a big colorwork project with like 12 different colors, and I had to look at which shade the sample was using. Okay, what color is that? And then I have to find a similar color on the yarn that I plan to use. But you know, with the computer screens, you don't really see the colors accurately, and it's a little bit annoying. But she just says, this color is light blue, this color is yellow, this color is this. So you can easily find your own in your own yarn. For example, she uses a lot of Knitpicks, Knitpicks palette, and still not allowed to get Knitpicks in Europe. We're still banned for some reason. I don't know why. They don't want to deliver to continental Europe. They just... not a thing. Yeah, so you need to substitute, and I found that really clever. The yarn I'm using for this blanket is from Obi, which is a website that sells really affordable commercial yarn. I was contacted by them a few months ago. They wanted to see if they could send me some yarn so I could review it. I said no at the time because I didn't have time, and also because when it's a big commercial brand that contacts me, I sort of prefer to like buy myself first. I don't know. It's just, I don't, if I don't know them, I prefer to go through the stage of being a regular customer first, and then like I haven't heard anything like this in the knitting world, but I know that in the rest of the influencer world and everything, sometimes when the brands send you stuff for free as a gift, it's very different than when you actually buy them. So I prefer when it's a big brand or commercial brand to just go through the stages of being a customer. That way, when I talk about it, I actually have a bit more of a normal experience, so to say. And obviously it's a blanket, so I need lots of yarn. It's quite expensive, and I'm always looking for new commercial brands, and I didn't want to get drops because I don't want to buy drops yarn. I still have some of it in my stash and I love it. It's a great yarn and I will use it, but I don't want to buy from drops anymore because of their tendency to copy indie designers' patterns. So I'm always looking for replacements, and I'm especially looking for a blend of alpaca and wool, because blending alpaca and wool and sheep wool is the best thing, and I'm still looking for a good commercial blend of this. Manos del Uruguay has one, which I know because they sent me some, and it's going to be a design and it's gorgeous. But I'm looking for one that's like in Europe. Lana Grossa had one, but they didn't have any colors in stock, so I don't know if it's discontinued or something. So I gave up on the alpaca thing, and I looked on the Hobbies website, and I saw that they had this, which is called Lima. And Hobby, they have their own yarn, if I understood right, but they also retail other brands, and this is from Hjertegarn something. It's a Danish brand. I don't know how to pronounce the first word, but I know garn is yarn in Danish, so or Norwegian, but I know, I think this is Danish, right? This looks like Danish to me. But yeah, so this is Peruvian. They say wool from South America. It's usually Peru, right? Highland wool, basically. It's quite soft. It's quite the same feeling as any Highland wool from commercial brands, like the Drops Alaska, for example. It's sort of the same feeling. And it's nice and soft. It's good for color work. It's affordable. I had to buy like 50 skeins, so it still was expensive, but normally it's quite affordable. And yeah, it works pretty well in color work, even though, like I said, you had to magic loop some places and everything. And so yeah, I think it's a decent blanket yarn. And I think my package came from Germany, I'm not sure. But yeah, Hobby, they have a ton of different commercial brands, really affordable ones. I know, was it Skandir, I think? Ellie from Skandir, who had some yarn from them. And so maybe she used some of their ranges that you can check what she used them for, and maybe can give you ideas of yarn that you can find there. But yeah, this is good, thick yarn for color work. So yes, and we'll see. Crossing fingers that this blanket doesn't get me angry after 2 minutes, but yeah, so far so good. I really liked it. I'm almost finished with that first hexagon. I need to make a second one exactly like them, and then I need to make the other motifs. So that's the thing. It's going to be quite interesting because the motifs are not the same all the time. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I really hope that I find a way to make blankets a way that I like and find interesting, because yeah, really like it. Really like it so far. It was fun. Was it really reasonable to cast on a new project, considering I haven't finished the 2 garments I already have on my needles? No. Do I care? Not really. So, yeah. That's it for the knitting stuff. I have finished talking about the knitting stuff. And I didn't cross-stitch a lot the past couple of weeks because you may remember that a few weeks ago I talked about BARGELLO stitching. Long stitching, which is a type of embroidery which is unlike cross stitch. You don't make crosses, you just make vertical or horizontal threads. And I made earrings from Hello BARGELLO, which is an American designer that makes and sells patterns and kits with BARGELLO technique. And the way I found her, and I found that technique originally, was through Christmas ornaments. So she makes designs for Christmas ornaments, and I've pre-ordered the pattern and we now received it, so I decided to make them. And so this is how it looks, right? Okay, so there's a theme. There's a theme with eyes and the evil eye. Okay, I understand, but right, very eye episode. So, I'm making some from me and from my boyfriend's family, which I plan to send them, unless the borders close again and I can't send packages to Romania. We have, this is the shape of the ornament. So, BARGELLO is like these vertical threads that make these sort of psychedelic, sort of geometric shapes. And so this is the shape of the ornaments, and it's going to be double-sided. That's why there's 2 every time. This is going to be just 4 ornaments, basically, because this is the wrong side. I didn't even bother to make it neat, because basically I'm just going to take one side and flip it, and you put them wrong side together, and you basically seam the side. This way you have an ornament that is pretty on both sides. And then she has, I saw on the pictures on Instagram and in the pattern, she basically attached some sort of like this, some sort of pendants at the bottom of it. So you see it's gonna hang from here. So I bought some brass ornaments that I'm gonna use as well, like this, but a couple of different shapes. Yeah. So this is the shape for this year 2020 Christmas ornaments. These are the big ones. There are smaller ones as well, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna make it because they're not double-sided, but I could probably make them double-sided as well. I don't see why not. So yeah, and I also want to make the design from last year. So hello BARGELLO, they're limited edition, the Christmas ornaments. So the pattern from last year is not available anymore. But I really like it. And I only discovered her this year, so I'm like, oh no. And you can see it on her Instagram. It's a diamond shape, and it's a really, really pretty design. And yeah, so I bought a lot of her patterns. So morally, in my head, I thought, okay, I'm just going to try and reproduce the design from the picture that she has on Instagram. I'm just going to try and make them for me, basically, even though I couldn't buy the proper pattern. But yeah. So this way I will have these ones and the other ones as well. So I will have a nice set. They're going to be sort of in similar colors with the gradient of blue and the gradient of red. These are not the original color from the design. In the design, it's like greens and pinks, but I didn't want green. I was like, it's not the right kind of green, okay? The green in the pattern is like a khaki light olive green. Probably a similar color to what this will become after I wash my hair, but I didn't want them this color. So I prefer blues and reds and gold for my not true, for Christmas decorations I prefer white, silver and blue, but I thought that this would look fairly standard for us and for my boyfriend's family. So yeah, this is the plan. I think I'm gonna stitch all of them, and then I'm gonna cut them and make them into the ornaments, and I will show them to you. So that's it. This is all I've been crafting in the past couple of weeks. So yeah, this is the end of the episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you again in the middle of November with some new things. Yeah, don't forget to have a look at Sauron if you like it. I really hope you do. I think I'm gonna wear it a lot because it's like so comfy in the shape, and yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely rest of the day, evening, whenever it is when you're watching this. I hope you are well, and I will see you next time. Bye!